Welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions. And you must control your negative emotions, especially when it comes to children. And tonight we're going to talk about being a parent, a good one. I'm sorry to say that most parents aren't fit to be parents at all. They are too emotional, too impatient, too cruel to their children, possibly without even realizing it. After all, that's what the parents were to them. And their parents unloaded all their frustrations on those poor kids, you poor kids. And you grow up to be your parents, just like your parents. Ever go to a supermarket? Get out of my face. That's all you see in a supermarket.
Mommy, can I have this?
No, you can't have it.
Mommy, can I have this? Go on, Mommy, can I have it? You can't have it!
All right. He gives it to bad parents. Don't have to say no and stay. The guilt from being angry with the kid, from being upset, makes her loving. And if she feels guilty, she feels what she has to make up for the guilt. And the only love we've ever known is making up for guilt. And that kind of love ruins everything it touches. And it possesses everything it touches. It creates rebels, those who can escape, and conformist. And either one, the rebel or the conformist, are going to be screwed up for the rest of their life. Anybody understand what I'm talking about already? Are you such a victim? There's something's gone wrong with the human race, and it goes wrong through the parents. Make no mistake, the buck stops here. Trouble is, how do you get it to stop here? How do you get it to stop from projecting from one generation to the other? I mean, the Ten Commandments, one of them says the sins of the fathers, the failure of the father to be there for the kids, are projected, visited upon. What a terrible translation. The sins don't do any visiting. Oh, come in. It's nice. No, nice day, isn't it? Come to a visit? Yes, I have. Stay long? You know, they don't visit you. They are projected onto the third and fourth generation. But showing mercy to the thousands that love me and keep my commandments, right? And it's neat because amongst this audience this evening are survivors. Hands up, those of you who consider yourself a survivor of parenting. Yes, you wouldn't need to be here if you had good parents. You think my kids go to church? You think my kids go to a psychiatrist's couch? They save their money. They don't need to patronize those institutions because they got a good daddy. And it's worked on all of my 5. And I hope that we can do this evening and for the next 4 evenings, including this evening, see if we can't rectify the sins of the past by trying to understand what went wrong and how, when it does go wrong, it projects compulsively. The madness compulsively projects from one generation to another, each generation getting worse than the one before it. We've lost this generation, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry to say, there are a bunch of nincompoops out there. I never mind what the media says. You know, Roy Masters says that our present generation is a bunch of nincompoops. You know, and so you bring forth a few bright young people who say they love school and they love their teachers and love their parents. You can always find a few. And as a matter of fact, any kid who likes school today has got to be a little bit cuckoo. You know, from my point of view, from their point of view, it's proof that school is good, but not to me. So there are very few people that love their children, children that love their parents, and very few parents that love their children. And we have to find out what that is. Now, There may be a few sobs here this evening, and we're going to dig and probe. And the very fact that you ask a question, I hope you will ask. Do you have any questions, by the way? You want anything you want to discuss about your parents and about parenting, about the effect of your parents, and how to find that? And yes, okay, there's a gentleman right here.
The question is in regards to my 3.5-year-old daughter, the youngest child in the family. Without the mother being present, I find that what separated their mother and myself is now being demonstrated in her actions.
Yes.
Witchy, willful, crybaby, picky-unish, hard to get along with sometimes. Then on the other hand, extremely loving.
Yes.
Cuddly, cooey, all the little nuances.
Just tell me about it.
A young little girl goes through.
Yes.
Now, in breaking the cycle, they're very familiar with Roy Masters and the Foundation.
Do they throw up the cape every time they see me on television or something and shrink off into the darkness?
Not in the slightest. They're practicing. They are actually practicing. I see it.
Now, let's discuss now. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about breaking this cycle of being future mother, future shock to the next generation?
Third and fourth generation.
Yes, well, you want to know how you can be the modifying influence?
Yes.
Well, the answers may be a little bit tough for you. But you must realize that, let's start with something very simple and very shocking. Are you prepared for that? I hope you are.
Oh, absolutely.
The ladies, the liberal ladies in the audience, I'm not sure if the liberals are ladies. There's something about a woman that men need to understand, and I'm going a little slow especially because I want to just put a frame around it. I don't want you to miss what I'm about to say. And that is, women are little girls. It's not a put down, but you must look at your wife as though she is a naughty little girl.
She's no longer a part of the home.
Ah, I see. But then the advice will go through you, through the television screen, and hear everybody. I want you to understand it because you may get married again. There may be another occasion, for suffering in your life. And you walk into the lion's den again, thinking you found happiness and you found, Black Hole of Calcutta. That women must be treated in a fatherly way, with a quality of the father they have never known. It's not a put down. Now, you can treat a woman as a friend, a lover, if you like, but the moment she starts to get witchy on you, all right, the moment she starts to push and be willful, it's because you have used her. In other words, you have indulged, this part it's lovey and sweet, and the part that's you're describing it, your 3.5-year-old already. She wants her way. She can upset you 1 minute, and then she can be sweet and kind and cuddly and lovey, and you think, oh, isn't she a wonderful little girl, and you'll indulge in her favors. You'll sexually or otherwise, you'll think she's wonderful. And she'll draw from you some kind of a reinforcement for her pride from you. She'll get approval from you. A woman wants approval from you because when you get that approval, when she gets your love, and she maneuvers for this approval, she'll be mean 1 minute to upset you and make you feel guilty, and then she'll start to love you, and so therefore when she starts to love you, it's so inviting to lose yourself in her warmth and cuddliness. See, to lose sight of your guilt and to restore your sense of innocence again. See, that you will indulge that, and every time you do, you're giving power to the pride and the willfulness and the witchiness of that which you see in a female. You must do two things. Of course, in your case, it doesn't count. Whenever you see a woman being willful, for example, let's say a woman is late. You ever had a date with a woman and she's late? She's always late.
Every time.
Every single... Is there a lady in this audience that never is late? Good. Well, you're not interesting then. You don't have many boyfriends, do you? See, because there's something of the reason why the woman is late, it's only because she's starting to manipulate. She's to see if you'll stand around. The proper way to do that is to say to this lady, I'm going to pick you up at 7. If she's not there, 30 seconds after 7, go off to the movies by yourself. She said, where were you? I said, well, it was 7, and you weren't there. I tell her you're not going to wait 1 minute ahead of time. She'll love you for that. She'll respect you for that. But if you wait 1 minute, you are a goner. You understand that?
I hear you loud and clear.
So, now, when it comes to being married, having been delayed a number of times and fallen into the trap, you know, of being manipulated and thinking that you are an accommodating young fellow. You're not really, you're weak. She will reward that accommodation as though you were thoughtful, when it's really weak. We men are always looking to have our weakness stamped as virtue, especially the sexual weakness, see? So that even more weakens you. But all the time that you are looking to that woman for approval and looking for that woman for love, you're giving power to something very, very sinister. And the more you fall, of course, the more you're going to need to be validated by her love, right? You understand that?
Yes.
It's like the more, you know, the more person becomes tempted by dope, the more guilty he is, the more he needs to be validated by dope. Come on, man, take one more. Come on, man, come on. Take one more puff. I don't even know the terminology because I'm so far from it. And you could aggravate the person so much, then they fall. And when the person falls, they need love. And the provider of that love is the bitch or the witch of the person, the evil of that person. And you're doing business with the devil. Any spiritual weakness, any lack of understanding of protocol, see, on your part, because of lack of discipline of your father for not being there, he's a goner. He couldn't teach you. He couldn't. See, I tell you, there's disciplines, and these disciplines must be understood. You know, diets are disciplines. You know, you can. The doctor says to me, he says, a friend of mine, Paul Barter, is a naturopath. What does he call him? Homeopath. And I like yogurts and kefirs and things like that. And I drank them. It didn't do me any good. He says, drink a third of a cup of kefir on an empty stomach in the morning. All right? I'm just deviating a little bit to make a point. So I did that, and it improved me, because it has the acidophilus in it. But I used to drink a cup of, you know, a big cup of kefir any time I felt like it. But didn't, you know, all it did was make me fat. See? In other words, there is a time and place for everything, and when you understand the principles, you begin to flower. There are little techniques for, well, in your business, every tradesman has little techniques that nobody else knows. They're disciplines. And it comes out better and bigger and more practical and more useful, a better invention, a better product than anybody else's. Disciplines have something to do with you being a man, being respected in the eyes of your woman. But if you need love, and if you fall for any trick you will, to take the guilt away, then the love that you get from the woman is control. And the more you can get, now she starts to control you, and that upsets you. And when it upsets you, you need love to soothe you. Who understands what I'm saying? All right. Now, all women must be treated as little children, little girls, because Adam and Eve were the first man, and Eve was cloned out of Adam. She was called woman because she came out of man. Eve is technically the bone of man's bones. See? He is the extension of her. And theoretically, in your perfect state, in your ideal state, and that ideal state is recognized by every woman, and the not-so-ideal state is recognized by every woman for the weakness it is. And the not-so-ideal state, women immediately take advantage of it. They can't help themselves. A woman feels safe with a man she can't manipulate. Ladies, may I see a show of hands? You understand that? And you must start now with your daughter. Don't be upset with her because she has a way of manipulating you and making perfect excuses and making you feel guilty and then giving in to her warmth and kindness and cuddliness. See? Make sure when she sits on your lap that you don't get too cuddly because it starts to be sexual. Who understands? Gentlemen, you understand what I'm... Not many gentlemen will put up their hands, but it's all right. That one of the reasons why men will reject their daughters, and no one ever expects me to answer a question that they ask me. I'll always come off in 5,000 different ways. But one of the reasons why men will not love their daughters, because the only love a man has ever known is manipulating, the sensual manipulation which they need to lose themselves in. You follow? Who understands that point? So the only love a man knows is not from God. It's because he's weak, and he needs reassurance that he's not weak. He needs the excitement of a woman's support. But that's what makes a woman powerful, and makes a woman hate the man, because as long as the woman is rising to the occasion of this weakness, which he can't help doing, only to make him weaker, to rise to the occasion of his weakness, to hate him more, and so on. As long as she's doing that, as long as a man is indulging it, as long as the man is indulging her love, which he continuously through his weakness calls forth, he cannot love the woman. It is always perceived by the woman as use. See? And it becomes sensual and sexual. That's where the sensual and the sexualness awakens, because it's all failing has something to do with sensuality and sexuality. For all failing, that every failing has a sensual connotation. A man will have sex with the back of a bus. It doesn't make much difference to him. After a while, you know, a sexy new car. Everything is sexy. Anything that's supportive is sexual. And so therefore, when a little girl sits on your lap and starts to play the same game, and she has it by instinct, by your default with dealing with your wife, she's got it through your wife. She's got, nature is transmitted from your wife into your little girl. You follow that? That willfulness goes right into that little girl.
Yes.
All right? So therefore, most men cannot have their little daughters on their lap because they feel sexual. They're afraid they may molest the child, so therefore they reject the child completely and make the child feel like she's nothing. But that's what makes the children, the female child, want the father even more. This presents a big dilemma for the father, right? And makes the father hate the child. But the child feels guilty. And when the female child feels guilty, what does a female do when she's guilty? She starts to want to love, to be loved. See? And she'll look for a man. She can't get it from her father because she keeps tempting her father to love in a way that will destroy him. He protects himself by pushing her away. So she goes out with her boyfriend and tries it with the boyfriend, hoping to get love, and she gets used. Now the beginning of the hatred of all men has started. Forgive me, I'm an Adam and Evite. I believe that man is a fallen being. And I have presented, even in the minuscule portion of my dissertation this evening, absolute logical proof that man is a fallen being. That the perfect love is non-sensual. It doesn't look for support, it doesn't accept the support. And that is what I've learned from being a father and a husband. That to the degree that you indulge your wife's affections and encourage her affection to support your ego, without realizing that's what you're doing, to that degree you weaken your position as a father and a source of correction not only to your wife, who has contempt for you, but for your children too. Because you look like a klutz sitting there. She won't take your correction. You're too busy giving her the power of God. A woman eventually has the power. You know, man should have the power of wisdom, so that everybody, all the kids, everybody who contest with that wisdom cannot overcome it, because his wisdom is so strong and so wise. And as a result of that, they feel safe. They feel corrected. But when a woman gets that power, it's all hell breaks loose, because a woman needs to be corrected. And when she becomes the power, she then becomes the source of the confusion in the home, and she's always right even though she's wrong. Who understands what I'm saying? Who has a mother like that? Come on, let's see. How many people have got a mother like that? Good. How many people got a father like that? Good. Everybody's got a father like that. See? Your father either becomes a klutz or you become a bully, you know, a browbeater. I'm sorry to make such a long, long talk about one simple thing, but I wanted to make a point that you got to treat naughty women, children, women as naughty children, because she is the bone of your bone. She is your daughter. She becomes your wife and lover only when you fall from grace. And the marriage relationship is to try to transcend it, not indulge it. You dig? That's why the woman is looking for that kind of man that won't fall for her, or she at least marries a man who has beyond a potential of transcending. And what gives her her hope is when she finds that on certain occasions when she is willful, the man won't give in. And he prefers to go without his sex. He doesn't care about sex then, because right is more important than his sex. He doesn't care about the woman's love. He cares about what's right. And when a woman sees that a woman cares more about what's right and stands for rightly, not with anger and resentment and yelling and screaming, then she is corrected. She becomes his daughter, becomes more his daughter. So he loves her more and uses her less. Then the children see him loving more, the love that comes out of the less use. Ours, how can you have love when you have use? Doesn't go. More love, less use. See? More use, less love. This is what turns a man into a beast. Did I talk too much? Because my producer's saying, 5 minutes, you're talking too long. I agreed. I would let you ask questions. When I'm on a run, I can't stop. All right, thank you very much. Does that answer your question? You died. It did, didn't it?
I'll continue more with your book on how to survive your parents.
Yes, it's a good book, How to Survive Your Parents. It's a book every parent should read. Yes. There's a lady way over there. It's just an awkward spot, but we'll try to get this gentleman with his, stick that microphone right in your mouth. Yes, that's fine. Thank you very much. We'll get... Yes, you just stand up, Clink. Thank you very much.
My question, after hearing all that you just said, because my husband and I are both meditators, and my husband's come to a lot of understanding of how much of his mother is in him. And sometimes when both of us are dealing with the female coming out in both of us at the same time, after everything you just said...
That's where the war begins, is two females fighting.
No, it's not. It's not so much a war anymore. I mean, we've gotten to the place where we can discuss
that's where it
without
would be.
Screaming.
The woman and the man, and the woman and the woman. The woman and the man, well, the man trying to be a man with a woman in him. And he can't fight the woman who's a woman that's stronger than the man who's a woman less than the... inferior to the woman. You see what I mean? He's created in the woman's image. Made over in the woman's image, you see. That's why he's inferior to the man, yes.
Well, it's mostly on really minor stuff, but being female, the minor stuff has a tendency, you know, you overlook it, and then something comes up and you
I'll tell you what, I was so long-winded tonight. I'm going to give you a chance in the next segment to talk, because we went through a whole half an hour. I talked for a whole half an hour. And time and space vanished. Well, this is program 4573. And if you like the program, tell a friend, because we need you and your friends to support our broadcast. And the first thing you can do to support the broadcast is learn the technique that we have. It's a meditation technique. It's a concentration, counter, hypnotic, you know, the hypnosis of life, the hypnosis of the pressures of your family, your wife. It's a hypnotic harping. And if you just learn to do that, you'll find that you'll have the strength of and authority that you need in order to be a believable and respectable mother and father to your children. You've got to come back to this original state, and you've got to find the principles, you know, these very delicate principles I was talking about a few moments ago. If you understand them and put into practice, your whole life will change. So, you know, don't listen to people who say you can't eat principles. Let them eat them. They're not meant to eat. Thank you very much, and join us tomorrow in our next broadcast.
Part 2 is next.
Welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions, and I promised my producer I would allow people to ask more questions, and no sooner that I did that, I went off into an half-an-hour lecture. So let's continue where we left off in the last program about family problems. But I gave you a marvelous basis for why there's problems in the family at all. The root of it. I'm sorry that the other audience missed it, but anyway, we'll try to fill them in a little bit as we go by recalling some of the things I've said and bringing it forward in answering to these questions that will be forthcoming. Okay, do you have any questions, anybody? This lady right in the front.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how to put it into words, but my father died when I was about 3 1/2.
Yes.
And I had a stepfather. And my father, I remembered, was very loving, and I tried to get this love from a stepfather, and he used to always push me away.
Your father was loving.
The father that passed away when
Yes.
I was 3 1/2, I remember that. And my mother is like the shrew in the family, so there was never anybody
Tell me something new.
for me to go to get the love, okay? So I got married young, and as soon as I got this husband, I started hating him. And it's been
Tell me
one
something new.
man after another. Okay, so here I am now, and it's like I can finally see it, and I
You know why you hate him?
Well, from after listening to you,
What,
yes.
can you just put it in a few words why you hate him?
Because I didn't respect him.
Why didn't you respect him?
Because I always...
You could manipulate him.
Manipulate.
You gave him the love that his silly
Exactly.
little ego needs.
The little ego.
And he fell into that,
Yes.
and you became his power, didn't
Exactly.
you? Will. You were able to put your will into him.
Exactly, and that's not just him, it's
No,
every
but no
man.
woman respects a man she can control.
But that's every relationship.
But she
like
pretends
that.
to love the man she can control. She pretends to love while she secretly hates him.
And then I started hating myself.
Yes, of course, because the guilt.
Exactly. Well, I'm at the point now, I'm just tired of it all. And, you know, you said
You
all
want
that.
a
Is there any real men out there?
Only me, I'm taking.
It's just fabulous. I can...
But you could to take the correction from me. I can be a surrogate father to you. You know, I don't have to be gushy, because after all, what is a father but a fount of truth? You know, a fount of truth, a believable truth. You know, not with hypocrisy.
This is it. It's like I've been searching for something all my life, and I've just felt so empty, you know.
But your
And
emptiness is caused by your resentment towards your father, because your father represents God. He's a very poor representative of him. That's why you hate God. When you hate your father, you would secretly, without realizing, have been tricked into hating God. And when men hate their mothers, or see, when men are related to their mothers the way men are related to their mothers, the mothers have done this trick, getting their sons to hate God by loving their husbands in the beginning. That's why they wouldn't have got them married otherwise, if they hadn't given them that potion of love that all men like, you know. But loving them and making them so weak and so pathetic or violent, drunken, see, and subtly putting their will in every time, so that men are afraid to have sex with their wives because you're even afraid to eat her dinner, her food.
I know.
You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Because the will is in that food too.
Mm-hmm.
And she seems to gloat over the fact, like a concentration camp commander. You know, oh, the fact you turn the people into animals, and you feel a sense of power. Can't stop. So, but the point is, the father has been turned into such a nothing, violent or weak, that the mother can say to the children, as if to say, look at your father, he's just nothing, look how much love I've got, I'm devoted, I'm loving. So what happens is she steals the role that God should have in their life by turning them against their father and by God, against God. So that when you are turned against God, you feel this emptiness in your life. When you resent your father, you feel the emptiness. And the emptiness comes from separating from God, because when you hate your father, you are hating God.
Well, I didn't...
And you become separate from God. And this is the emptiness. And the result is you get close to your mother. Your mother.
I never could get close to my mother because she
You
was
did
such
get
a
close.
bitch.
I know, but you
But
became
my
her.
stepfather used to beat me, so I couldn't get close to him either. And she never said to love him, that he was no good and she was good. She always tried to get me to love him and respect him because he was my new father.
Yes.
And I couldn't when he used to... I could see as a little child.
She wanted you to share her illusions.
Exactly.
See?
And I wouldn't do it.
And then you resented her.
Exactly.
And then what did she do to you? She was
It's
cruel to you?
Very cruel.
Yeah. But you see, your mother got inside you.
Mm-hmm.
See, resentment is a funny thing. And it's very strange in that if you resent your father, let me put it from a man's point of view, because it's a little easier to grasp from a man's point of view for some reason or other. As a man, if I resent my father, then I lose my identity as a man. Now, if I resent my mother for what she did to my father, or for what she did to my faith in my father, and to my faith in my own self, because I can feel my own emptiness in my own... If I resent my mother for that, I don't have to draw close to her with love. I can rebel all I want. But resenting a mother and a father has two different completely opposite effects. Let me say it again. To resent your father, you lose your male identity. If you resent your mother, you get a female-centered identity. You're involved with a seducer. And I'm saying it's the same thing with you. What you need is a male, man-centered identity. Because the man-centered identity is a God-centered identity, if it's true man. If it's the male man, you've got a problem. It's not a man. A male man is not a male. Because a male is what comes out of a man when man is not a man anymore. When he's been tempted and falls from grace, he becomes sensual because he loses the grace and the identity which comes from being sensible and standing firm in the faith. You follow that? So it's a very strange phenomena, but you take the identity of your corrupter. And men become woman-centered, and then that's what makes them look for love in a woman. So your son, because of you hate your husband, and because your love has whimperized him, see, or made him less than a man, a beast, he will hate his father, but you will have tricked him to hate his father. You see, but he will have your identity. He will have a woman inside him, and he will come back to the woman, because the woman is the ground of the God ground, the new God ground of his new created being. A man is recreated in the image of a woman. A man is recreated in the image through all this excitement, by hating his father, by you turning him against his father and making a father an object of contempt. All the children could feel, because you're bonded to them, and they are bonded to you at birth. See, they can feel your hate. See, and they don't have their own hate towards their father. They have your hate towards their father, but it's enough. They fall.
I don't see that with them. Of course, we've been divorced for almost 10 years. and they respect and love their father. And I never say anything bad anymore about him.
Oh yes, well that could be, you know, we're speaking now about things running its natural course. There's always exceptions to the rule. I'm happy to hear that. So then why you beefing? You shouldn't have a problem then, should you? What is your problem?
My problem is that I finally saw the pattern about my resentment for my mother and my stepfather, and then all the men in my life hating them once I got them by my manipulations. My problem was, is there, you know, any men out there
Is there life after sex?
Exactly. That's it.
So the question again is what?
You know, is
Well,
where I'm at. It's just...
I'm not sure I get the question, you see, because I've given lots of good answers for other people who have problems that you don't have. You know?
I think you pretty much...
You did?
Yes, you did. There's not really a problem
So
now.
you mean you understand what I've said?
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, it all disappeared as you were... It sort of disappeared a little bit as you were talking to me, didn't it? That's why you were groping.
Yes.
The light is a beautiful thing, because when you understand something, wow, you know, all of a sudden the problem seems kind of puny. Have you ever gone to bed at night with a terrible worry about this or that, and then you fell asleep for some, you know, sometimes it happens and you fall asleep, and you wake up next morning and you said, I had a problem last night. What was it? It's gone. Has it happened to you before? When you're worried about something and you don't have understanding, it becomes so very magnified. But when the light comes...
That's been happening a lot
yes,
lately.
it makes you forget it. And what's happened a few moments ago, the light, oh, I see the point now, and suddenly it became kind of superfluous. Yes, the question in the back. We had you the other day and the other evening, and which is the same evening as the other evening, but yes.
The question was, my husband and I are both meditators, and he really is the head of the house. And the problem is...
Did you make him the head?
No.
You understand the boss maker is still the boss?
No, I'm not the boss.
But you understand the
Yeah,
principle of it, don't
he's
you?
the one in control.
You can't make the... You understand
my question is my role now.
Yes.
Because, see, because of him getting his identity as head of the house and me learning how to back off,
Yeah.
sometimes when part of his mother that's still there in the unconscious creeps to the forefront, my female that is still a little bit in the unconscious
You mean your
rears
mother?
its back like a cat ready to strike.
Oh,
and
yes.
my question is, even though I'm able to deal with it more objectively, do I have a spiritual right in the proper way to correct him
Yes.
when he starts acting like his mother?
Yes.
But then that makes me feel like
Let
I'm
me tell you
being
what
a
it
bitch,
is.
though.
No, let me tell you what it is. I'll give it to you very simple. All of the answers I give you are very simple, all based in the same root. And the more you listen to me, the more you understand it. When a woman hates a man, the scar is so deep, it goes right back to original sin. And once a woman judges a man for his failing, she never forgives him. As a matter of fact, the whole female identity is built on it. Who understands that part? You do, don't you? See? Now, what I'm saying is that it's very hard for a woman to forgive. As a matter of fact, it's impossible. Almost impossible. There are exceptions to the rule. Hopefully, you have a man-woman relationship to work the problem out, because we hope that in time, you keep on seeing his weakness, and the side of you that sees the weakness springs out. And he sees that he sees what in himself what you see in himself, and he catches it before the temptation. That's the moment of temptation, and he overcomes. And when he overcomes, you feel safe. You back down, because that overcoming the overcoming of his reaction to you, his resentment towards all women, which is from his mother. Remember, that's how he got his mother's identity. It's the man in him that overcomes the resentment towards his wife. All he's doing is practicing dealing with his mother when he's dealing with his wife, don't you see? Because men have become less than men through being left alone with the influence of their mothers. And they've hated their mothers, and they've learned the identity of their mother has got inside them. So every time they hate their wives, they become less than a man. And therefore, the woman sees that, less than a man, and that less than a man has failed her again. And she resents him. And then there's this judgment is reinforced. And no wonder she goes to the booby hatch. See? And she screams bloody because this evil, this ugly witch comes up through her. Into the children. She takes a frustration of the children because this Satan is alive and well in the bosom of this creature. And she can't help herself. See? The man has summoned it like the genie out of a bottle. He rubs it and it comes out pretty good sometimes. You know? So, what I'm asking you to do now, that two things, men and women related. As a woman, when you see a man failing you, because you have this sort of power to make him fail, it would behoove you to look at yourself and forgive his weakness. I mean, to learn not to add one more judgment to the list of judgments you already have piled up that's causing you to go crazy and separating you further from reality. It would behoove you, and then the light of truth will come into you, and man will see you as he will look at himself like holding up a mirror, and he will catch his breath for a moment, and he will see himself, and he will change. The ultimate is for each one of us to bring each other back to conscience. Even when you're correcting your children, if you're very patient. If you're very patient with them, you know, and calm, and when they're nagging and screaming, but that you don't respond to your children. You know, as a woman, you don't repeat the mistake of your mother. See? You don't hate your husband and you don't take it out on your kids. See that? And so even then, when you're very calm, the children don't get recharged in the negative. Do you see what I mean? They don't get the identity you gave them reinforced. You are the root of their schizoid identity. Let's make it complicated a little bit more. You're the root of everything that's wrong with them. The dad failed them, the mother has ruined them, right? You feel the guilt of it all, and you try to love, and you ruin them again. So that frustrates you even more. It's always, the root is always frustration, so back off. See? Back off in that moment, because that moment the light will come, and you're not only not tempting them, but you're shining a light that makes them aware of their weakness. And you make them a weakness. If you could just make a person aware of his weakness, in that moment of time and space, him and his conscience get together again. But if you overreact, you spoil that moment. You follow that? They overreact. The whole purpose of bringing up a child, is to bring you back to your conscience. To always let your conscience be your guide. To bring you back to your Jiminy Cricket. See? That's why my children are successful. See? And I had to learn the hard way. Because there was nobody to teach me. I had to figure all this out for myself. Well, I don't think I was guided. I'm very blessed to know all these things. It's not written in books. But it's written in the book of the heart. That's why you say, yes, I see that. I always knew that. You couldn't say yes unless you already knew it. Everything I'm saying to you is what you already know. They're principles. Principles of paradise lost. Right? This is pretty rich tonight, isn't it? Yes, this lady over here, would you please stand? Oh, it's all right, you don't need to stand up because we get a mugshot of you from there.
Roy, you mentioned earlier about when you were speaking about the relationship between a man and a woman, that a man should always treat a woman like a little girl. And
not put her down.
No, I understand.
You understand, you ladies, I don't mean you to take me wrong, but I have a superior, not air about me, but an aloofness with my wife. And she has to come over to my side. I will not come over to her side. I'm not going to come over to her. She comes over to me. If she's reasonable, I go along with it only because it's reasonable, not because she's tempted me. Because eventually a woman has to have the mind of a man. Otherwise, failing that, the man's going to have the mind of the woman. And that's the problem.
Well,
no respect.
Interestingly enough, Roy, that's exactly what I wanted to ask this evening on the way home. I was thinking I needed to say something to my son. I needed to say to him, you know, be inside at a certain time. And...
By what authority?
I'm sorry?
By what authority do you speak?
Well, this was
that's an interesting question, isn't it?
Because
not because I'm your mother and you got to listen to me.
But that's all that I could find.
Well, it's no good. It doesn't
you
work.
see, that's all that I could find. I found that there was no way that I could say that to him, and it be coming from the right authority. Every way that came to me to say that to him was some sort of emotion behind it that would tempt him to react. There
You're
is
angry.
no way
It's almost
that
like you're angry with him and pretending to be nice. You try being nice and you try being sweet, and you try being mean, and nothing works.
Now, I am trying to think about how Spock might do this, you know. Emotionless, you know, but I know intellectually, I know how, I know the right way. But
you know about it.
I know about it.
You know it, but
it's not there.
You're like a person in jail. I know the sun is out there, but I don't feel the warmth of its touch.
Yeah.
You see, you're in a damp, cold jail, and you see, and I'm trying to get you in contact with the light, so that you know that your flower, the flower of your being, you know, opens up and receives that light, and the light comes down into your being, and you become a healthy flower, and your children recognize. My analogy got spoiled there, but you know the point.
Mm-hmm.
Children recognize that authority.
Yeah.
And if they don't, if this parent doesn't have that quality, that strength, that respectability, that quality that makes every woman safe and respectful, which respectfulness transmits into the children. Follow? Now, my wife didn't have that respect early in life, and when I was gone, she would be there ruining them. See? And I had to come back and straighten it out. And after a while, the kids began to see that my wife was crazy and I was sane. But she tried to make it look like I was crazy and she was sane. You see? And if the kids believed that, they'd be in big trouble because of the conflict. She's believing a lie. See? So, but what saved them was the fact that I made them, that I didn't react, and I was the example, and I acted and projected what I'm teaching you this evening, and as a result, all my children have grown up to be very wholesome young people and successful. None of them smoke, none of them drink, and we have a wonderful, happy family. And even my wife now she's the last one. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first, you know. But never mind, she's lost her power. She has lost her power. She's not out in the cold. If it was the other way around, I'd be in the doghouse. But because I love her and understand that she was trying me to make me strong, she couldn't help herself. I don't hate her for that. See, it's only because it's possibly because that I didn't understand what I should have understood more perfectly in my youth, that it might have made a difference of her understanding earlier. I may have been a little too hard or too strong or something like that, see. I didn't always have what you see now, the compassion I have now, but it grew. You see, it grew, and she tested me to the limit. But that's what women are for, because they're coming back to the point. It's only when, over a long haul, when you're married together a long time, she keeps trying this man, and this man is learning to become like the father she never had. In the husband, her mother never had, you know what I mean? She's replaying the Adam and Eve role again. It's like a replay, except this time Adam gets to do it right. Now, how many times did he do it right? That doesn't satisfy the woman, because she resents him when he's wrong, but she also resents him when he's right, because her ego is challenged, you see, to try him hard again. which comes right to another round, another argument, and he has to stand firm, and he must never fail. He must never fail. It may take 20 years, but you see, you don't disappoint a woman and expect her to forgive you right away. She can't do it. It takes you 20 or 30 years for you to be tried and tested, and so finally, you're the finished product. It's like it says, for better or for worse. And then, one morning, she wakes up and sees you as this Adam that didn't fail her. The light of Christ that shines in you. And then, she doesn't judge you anymore. She doesn't see any more reason. There's a point in life where it's done. Who understands that? Now, where can you find this in psychology books? No. All right, well, I've got to give a plug. I don't have any books here. Yes, I do. How to Survive Your Parents. I've got a book here, How to Survive Your Parents, and also have the Adam and Eve Syndrome, which I don't have here. And a lot of the information that I have discussed this evening is in these books. But the primer, or the primer as we say in England, will be flashed on the screen in a moment, because you've got to get the poise, the discipline of a 007, except without his sexual prowess. You have to have that strength, that no-nonsense approach, that gentleness. In other words, you have to be a man that's fun to be with. But when you get tested, you've got another side to you that's very strong but not angry. See, it won't move. And gentlemen, you could do with a little dose of this, and ladies, you could learn if your husband is not quite right, not to hate him so much, so he can look at himself and give him a breathing space. This is program 4573, and tell a friend to listen to this program, and be a friend to support the program. Where are you going to find a program like this on television? I mean, now that you've lost Tammy and Jim Baker, I'm all that's left. You may never have found me if they didn't disappear from the screen. Thank you very much for listening to the program, and keep us on the air with your contributions. Thank you.
Part 3 is next, following this brief message.
The preceding lecture was produced by the Foundation of Human Understanding. For more information, write to the Foundation of Human Understanding at P.O. Box 1009, Grants Pass, Oregon 97526, or call 1-800-877-3227. Thank you.
The Foundation of Human Understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the Foundation of Human Understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions. We have been talking about the man-woman relationship, but of course I really wanted to get into parenting. But we got off into man-woman relationship, you know, and that really, if we can get that straightened out, then being a parent will be a natural thing. People have asked me about, you know, how to have a good marriage. All I tell them is they have to learn how to get rid of all the negative, to recognize what is wrong with their marriage and their relationship. There's no need for me to teach you how to be right. You already know that. If you can just get rid of what's wrong and just pierce the gloom, stand back, look at and admit to yourself, what is wrong and get that out of the way, dissolve it. The right way to be a parent to your children is already waiting for you. The right way to be a husband to your wife, the right way to be a wife to your husband already exists. But we've got to get through the myth, the illusions of love and romance. We have to get rid of the myth of the loving man-woman relationship, the kind of love that is romanced on your movies and your songs and your music. And I did a good job the last couple of evenings, you have to admit. Now, I'd like to take some call. This would be a good place to say that you can listen to my program on radio, KIV in Glendale. I'm doing great tonight. 9 o'clock in the morning, Monday through Friday. Now I got that out of the way. Who has a question? Okay, this lady, she's brimming with questions.
That's good. Earlier I had asked you, about the problems I had with presenting my mother. I now see through my meditations and through listening to you, what the problem is. Now...
Resenting your mother, you became your mother.
Exactly. And then you had said something that I didn't really catch about.
Resenting your father, you became your mother.
Exactly.
Can't win for losing.
You said something about needing some male in me, or something. I didn't get that.
You have to have, a woman has to become a man.
Could you please explain
No,
that?
yeah, that's a good way to lead into a whole slew of ideas here. See, a real man doesn't have a woman's nature in him. There's psychologists tell us that every man there's a little bit of woman, and every woman is a little bit of man. That's the problem. We don't know who the hell we are anymore.
Right.
See? And what you're looking at, that is, we call man, is not really man at all, but male. That man is a pristine, pure state that every woman is looking for in this man, this male that we call man. And we're all looking for that, because it's this that we can take our hate from all men away. Once you see that, Christ was such a man that when Mary Magdalene saw him and heard his compassion, she saw in Jesus what she saw in no man. And she kissed him, and she loved him, and she served him. And which a woman wants to serve a man like that. The trouble is, if you service a man unlike that, see the difference, serving and servicing, then you become the power of it. You get to be in charge of it. You create it in your own, recreate it in your own image. If it's less than that, it's your recreation. And it's your creation, it gives you the power that no woman ought to have. To confound all your family. And then to hate your husband even more because he could have stopped it. But he used you and didn't love you. That's why he couldn't stop it. So he was too busy indulging his selfishness, right? Mm-hmm. So the thing is, when you start interacting like that, the man falls in love with the woman, but falls out of love with the reality. See? And becomes the extension of a woman's reality, which is a dark world, isn't it? See? So then the man becomes the extension of the woman, and the woman reacts to the man and becomes, well, she takes on the identity of the man, the power of the man, the authority of the man, which is no business having. It's all confusing, you see. So, so therefore, you have in you a little bit of a man. And the little bit of a man that you have in you is by way of a man's failing. See, now, just look what happens in the moment that you hated your father when you were a little girl. Your mother hated your father. She turned you against your father because he was pathetic or cruel. You judged him. You resented him because he was cruel to your mother or whatever, and to you. He was weak. He wasn't there for you. You judged him. That judgment is exactly the same judgment, that resentment, that Eve felt for Adam. Exactly. You know, the first man fails his woman, the whole world collapses. Paradise is lost. What did he expect the woman to do? He failed. She resents him. She judges him. She hates him. That very moment, in your life, when you hated your father, you fell from grace. You became empty. And what did you do? From that emptiness, out of the pits of that emptiness, come the satanic love, the female. You fell from being a woman, and you became a female. Now there's a difference. Listen, you can have a queen, and you can have a wife or mother. You can have a whore. You can have a madam. There are different levels of womanhood. The further you slide down the scale of life, and you go up and down the scale, up. But the woman is the highest. The woman is the highest, not a queen. That's all phony baloney stuff. Glorifying, you know, and who does the glorifying for the population. I'm talking about the highest is the woman. The woman, but you can't be a woman because you hated your father. And you hated your father, that's the same as hating God. And the serpent of your mother, who experienced the same thing that she's now transmitting to you, has tricked you into hating your father, so that you take on the woman's spirit. You know, in other words, you take on the woman's power, but you get the man's life. Because when you resented your father, you were separated from the spiritual father. And what you got was the spirit of the temptation in the garden, the guilefulness, you see. The emptiness of your soul draws up the vacuum, this serpentine, seductive love, so that you feel obligated to love now. But when you are loved, you end up being worshipped. And when you worship, you become God. And when you become God, your will is in your husband. And your husband feels trapped. He feels less than a man because he's obeying the wrong God. But he can't exist except he does obey you. See, he doesn't feel comfortable as a person until he loses himself in your love. You see how it's a vicious cycle. But every time he loses himself in your acceptance and seeks it, and then seeks your embrace and surrenders himself to the spirit within you, he falls and transfers a little bit of his life to you, his masculinity, to this female, see? And this is what completes the female identity. See? So in other words, you have a little man in you, but you have the life of the man. You can't get his love, you get his guts. You understand the difference? And you have to make do with it. So therefore, you don't have the mind of a man, but you have the spirit of a serpent, and the strength, the identity of the man, and you reign in that home as chief witch. See, and the man doesn't know what to do with it. He can't handle it because it's too strong for him. He fights, he loves. It doesn't make much difference. He hates you. He keeps failing. Comes back to you for love. He loses himself in you, and you find yourself in that. And then when you find yourself, the morning after, you hate yourself because what you found isn't any good. Is that right? I've given you the story. It's almost like I'm a woman. I know what's going on inside you, right?
Yeah.
Well, now, and the man is becoming the woman. See, because he's got a little. He's taking on her identity. He's taking on your mind. See, you have the mind and you have the power, and he's fallen to that, and because by virtue of violation and corruption, he's taken a bit of your identity, and he's seeking your approval. So he doesn't have the mind of God, but he has the will of the serpentine will, and he can't break free from that serpentine will because he ceases to exist, because who he is has now been recreated out of this kind of love. You understand that? He needs its embrace. We are spirits, we are souls, and a soul is more than a body. It has to have the love of its creator to renew it, or it cannot evolve. But you are his recreator. You took over the role of playing God in that home, don't you see? So he ceases to exist. If you stop loving him, he feels betrayed. He goes wild, he goes crazy, he becomes violent for it. Who understands that? Ladies, it's something you don't realize the power you've got, but that's all the more reason why you have to let it go. And you have to stop hating him. Because once you're stuck in the role of hating men, because they'll always fail. Whenever they fail, they look to you for love. And when you give them the love, that's another failing. See? They get weaker and weaker, you get angry and angry, and you will keep on feeling guilty, and out of that emptiness, you'll need to be fulfilled. And how are you fulfilled? You fulfill him, and as you're doing it, you're stealing his life. He becomes less, and you become less. But thinking you're becoming more. It's a power you don't want to be.
I see that, so that's the question. What do you do if you don't want to be the man anymore, and you don't want the serpent in you, which I know how to do.
You have to forgive your father. Your whole relationship with men is based on the hate of your father. Remember I said the other day, the other program, that when you hate your father, you lose the identity of the God-centeredness of the father. But if you hate your mother, or love or hate your mother, see, you have the identity of the woman and the serpent, so you have the mind of the woman, or which is the serpent, and you're much more powerful than anything comes your way, especially when you become attractive. And when you lose the attractiveness, when you cease being a beautiful witch, you can get just as far being an ugly one. You understand that? See that? So you've got to forgive, because if you can forgive men, if you can see that your lot as a woman less than a female has come into existence, and you must stay in this miserable role until you learn to forgive men. They don't know what they're doing. Forgive them, Father, because the minute you see that, you'll have the mind of a man. You don't have to work it out with a man. I'm a man, and I can bring this light to you. Unbelievable man. And you can see this light is beginning to shine already. See? And so you see, I am the example of the kind of man that you can respect. And when you can respect a man, all the hate disappears. That's the kind of man, well, Jesus was much more than a man I'll ever be. But that's the quality that makes you saved. See? It's either in your husband, eventually, or it's in your teacher, now, and you see it. You see that men are all victims of women, and they've been shut off from light because they've never known any light. They've never known anything but the woman God, the shock that was transferred to the witch and the failing of the father. See? They can't be anything different. See? And the spirit is so strong, and you won't let them be any different.
When you said to forgive, I was at that taping. Your father, since that show, I had thought that I had forgiven, but the resentment
is still
and
there.
The compulsion has been so
That's
strong.
it. That's the unforgiveness.
That I didn't even realize
So
it was
now,
still
when you
there.
see, now look, you have a tendency. You can look around in this audience, and you can pick out all the weak men, right? Can you pick them all out by looking at them, right? They have the features have grown around their wimpiness, right?
Right.
There's one right. Look, there's one sitting in the front row right here. There's another one right there. There's another one right here. Right? They're all over the place. The one with the bearded fellow over there, you got one around. See? They're everywhere. The look on their face. Some of them try to look so mild and innocent, so they get your love, right? And every one of them you resent. As you walk down the street, as you're sitting here resenting them while you're looking at it, and you're not even aware of it. Now become aware of it. They've all been destroyed by their mothers. Everybody laughs at me when I say there's hardly any men in America. They've all been killed by their mothers. Do you understand what I've said there? But by the failing of their fathers, they've been killed by their mothers. Their mothers the fathers let them do it, right?
I see it.
So it's the next generation of wimps and beasts.
Exactly.
See? Now,
It's awful.
but you want salvation, right?
Exactly.
Forgive them, for they haven't the foggiest idea what they're doing. They just can't be heroes overnight. But if you keep judging them, what happens is you keep turning them on, because then you're the kind of female and not the woman that excites them, that upsets them. Because when they look at you, they can see their mother, and every time they look at you, they get excited or upset or something like that. And they're drawn to you and look for your approval. Because your very presence separates them from reality and makes them guilty and dependent and humble before you. Make you feel sorry for them. They have ways of making you feel sorry for them. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
See? God, you never met a man that knew all this about himself. You know it. Why don't we know it, right?
Yes.
Yes, yes, there's a man over there. It's a male man, at least.
In dealing with what we've been discussing, the forgiveness, it would appear to me that what I have been working with, trying to overcome the inability to be able to forgive, it just dawned on me that what I might be doing is trying to forgive from the feminine standpoint, from the woman that would be in me as a part of my personality.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, because you absolve a person of their guilt when you forgive them. It's not the same thing. You see, you're absolving. If you have a feminine quality to you, you will spoil and ruin with your love and forgiveness, because you have a role of God of absolution. So when you love them, they feel all right, but they're not all right. See, if you were God and you would accept them, forgive someone, they would change, and your forgiveness would be their continued strength of who they are in perfection, all the way to perfection. But you're not God. See, and this feminine side of you, when it forgives, it's being weak. It's being supportive to the wrong. Haven't you noticed when you ladies have a fight with your husband and he comes crawling back with his hat in hand, you can't wait to forgive him, because that's where you play God again. And then he says, "Oh, Mama," and he loses himself, surrender. And then you go at it for a few hours, and then he's worse next day, because your love only can make him worse. It only reinforces the pride of life, the fallen state. You're only doing is projecting that you are the recreation. He's recreated in your image, and all you're doing is loving your recreation, and manifesting itself for what it really is. Your love will keep on adding and altering and reinforcing what is secretly evolving inside, and all that. One morning you'll wake up and you'll see it for what it is. It's like you're making a transistor radio or something. And you put the transistors in, and you put the coil in, and you put the doohickeys in, and the aerial in, and then you put the batteries in, and it starts to talk to you. Well, every time you service, you fix your husband, one of these days you're putting all these parts together. You're completing him, right? He feels more complete every time you love him. He's a complete jerk. That's what you get. And then that's all the power you've got to make as a jerk.
And you don't want him.
And even if, some of these women, you don't even want him, you see. But you feel guilty because you don't know what to do with what you created. You want to kill it. You do kill it, you go out and make another one. You get married again, he dies, and you go find another sucker. What are we laughing at? Now, how comes you women know it, but men don't? Why is it such a secret? You can't tell men. Listen, the women have understood it because they already know it. The men listening already forgot it already. They can say, what did that masked man say? Well, I'm glad you could laugh. It's better than crying. Sorry. Well, while we're having a good laugh, he's holding up, ask questions.
Well, that almost brings about a state of cursedness, if I'm hearing you correctly, for the woman nature to be able to forgive.
It's a curse.
Which is, as you put it, nearly an impossibility. But doesn't that bring about the regaining the grace from the original problem, which was falling?
I'm not quite sure I got the framing of that question, if you don't mind.
Well,
But look, every woman you meet, everyone that's attractive to you is your mother. She is you unconsciously select the woman that you marry because she is exactly like the mother, the spirit, the force. And even if it isn't there, you're going to bring it out because it has a potential. Your unconsciousness, the demons of your unconsciousness, you're not conscious of them. Deep down inside in your id or your schmid, wherever it lives, somewhere down inside where you are not able to detect these two creatures communicate, you know, and she sees that in you and it turns her on because you're just like the father. You're nice, a juicy plum to enjoy hating again. And she will rise to the occasion to love it because you're woman-centered. And you're crying out to this female. And it's these cries, these like ships in the night. They have these foghorns that talk to each other. You know, they communicate on such low levels. You say, you know, you say, what the hell am I doing? But you keep making the same mistake over and over and over again. And your consciousness, well, it's not conscious of what's going on in your unconscious, you see. But you got to work it out. Because you, like for better or for worse, now you understand, you stay together for better or for worse. Because Adam is selfish. And Adam's selfishness is selfishness with women and for women. It's abuse of women. It's rooted in the use of women. That a woman, his mother, has set him up to the failing of his father. He's got to come back to work it out, to have his misery with you, and you with him. And the best time of marriage, the best point of marriage is when you're most miserable. It's not when you're falling in love, all that sort of stuff. It's not the best time. The best time is when you're slugging it out. And if I could be there at that time, if I could be on the television at that time for you, I could have helped you. You wouldn't, see? You wouldn't be divorced. You know, the chances are that there's a decency in most people. There's a quality, and all they need is someone to love them and to guide them. The churches have failed, the psychologists are jerks, they all got the same problem with their wives. One of my best friends is a psychiatrist. And I woke him up, and he had the same problem with his wife, the classic problem, with a classic weakness, and when he understood what I was saying, his whole life changed. He no longer gave in to his wife, he no cowed down to her, he began to be strong, and she hated me because she'd lost her prey, you know. Well, that another half an hour whisked by. It didn't seem like a half an hour, did it? Well, just want to remind the viewers to support the broadcast. And we are a church, but you belong to the church of no belongers. Because if you belong to a church, belong to anything, you can't belong to yourself. So we can't excommunicate you. And there's no really place. The foundation is a very small place, and we have little meetings like this. If you want to come, you just have to call and make a reservation. And I have lectures, and I'm also on radio, KIV here in Los Angeles. Those of you in Los Angeles can hear me all over Los Angeles and Ventura and Orange County. It's 870 on the dial, 9 a.m. in the morning. So between the TV and the radio program, you should be very much enlightened. But we need the money to pay these huge expenses, and just consider it as a donation to a church, but you don't have to go. We'll come to you. See what I mean? And I think it's kind of a unique thing. We don't want you. I don't want to see you. Just send me the money, and I'll come into your living room. And where are you going to get enlightenment like this? I mean, it's got to be worth something. And to begin with, may I suggest that you start this meditation exercise that I only allude to it every now and then, but I should be talking about it more, to lift you to this paradise state of awareness, where you start seeing things that you've forgotten, remembering things you've forgotten. In your emotional, passionate state, you forget. And believe me, we want to forget because it haunts us as conscience when we're selfish. See, so write to the Foundation of Human Understanding, Post Office Box 34036, Los Angeles, and 90034. And keep us on the air with your contributions. Begin at least with the cassettes, which will be flashed on your screen. Write to us. Thanks, and join us tomorrow. Welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions. Actually, we're having a lot of fun here this evening. This is a continuation. This is our fourth program in a series of man-woman relationship, but we really intended to make it a program on being better parents. And so far we're stuck in the man-woman relationship. It's okay, because if we can make men and women better women and women, they'd also be naturally better parents. So we have our first question from the audience.
I think I'll put it back to the children because that's
I don't mind, but
I'm a substitute for LA County and also for Montebello Unified School District. And in dealing with the children, okay, I'm not married and there's no children in my family, so I don't really know how to deal with children correctly.
How did you get here? Go ahead.
But anyway, in my dealings as a substitute teacher, I've noticed that a lot of the children are influenced by the teacher themselves. Okay, if the teacher has problems, you know, they kind of like fly off on one end and they're jumping up and down the schoolroom or whatever. And I've noticed that in myself too, that when I want something, I kind of want, although I say, well, you guys have to do this or something like that.
You start being willful.
I'm willful. And
you're not going to make it. Children cannot be taught correctly when you have a willful, impatient pressure monger for a teacher, for a mother or a father. It is pure murder. You murder, literally murder their souls. People think of being impatient as, as everybody's upset. It's natural to be upset. We all get impatient. We don't think of impatient for what it really is. It's hate. It's hate projecting itself. I mean, do you know what it's like can you remember back when your mother was impatient with you? What you're staring at is hell. Is that right? In that moment, it's like time and space opens up, heaven disappears, and there's this hell thing standing in front of you, putting itself inside you. Now, you give the children two choices: rebel or conform. Resent you, because you're actually tempting them to resent you. Mm-hmm. The spirit in you wants the children to resent, because that's the temptation that opens them up for your will.
Okay,
so now what happens is that some children rebel and become wimps and take on the teacher's identity and purpose and will and learning and information, but they're not really people anymore. You see? And other kids rebel and they won't learn. They cannot learn. They try to keep the teacher out, but they also keep the knowledge out. But the trouble is they don't keep the teacher out. The teacher comes in and sticks in their craw, but the knowledge doesn't get in. They just reject the knowledge. They just close their ears. After the teacher gets in, they close they close their ears and they don't hear. They won't learn. They learn all the things. They do just the opposite of what the teacher wants them to do. Okay. It's especially with religion. You try to make your kids religious and they become unreligious, don't they? They go to pot, in other words. But the teacher's spirit has already destroyed them, set them up for the opposite of knowledge, the opposite of good. See? Now, so you've got two kids, one who is no good, and one who's no good, bad. One's a little hypocrite, ready to for the next generation, to ruin the next generation, to pressure them into joining and creating rebels and conformists. You're not going to educate children with your willfulness and pressure.
Okay, can you
Okay.
explain a little bit about, I understand what you mean about willfulness, because during my meditations and everything, that's slowly going down.
It's disappearing.
And I noticed that the children are starting to come more up to me, and they're able to talk to me more.
Relate.
Yes. It's nice to see, because at first, you know,
They
they're
want.
kinda like
They
pushed
love
against
knowledge.
the wall.
They love. The children naturally. They love to learn, but you're ruining learning. You're ruining the naturalness of learning. You're ruining the fun. You're altering their identity at its core.
What do you mean by pressure?
Making everything dry. You know what I mean? You're making everything dry for them when you pressure them.
Okay, me being a sub now, I can only take what the teacher tells me to do. Okay, but
It's the way you do it.
yes,
It's the way. It's the spirit in you. That's what's going to change.
So by me not pressuring them to do what I want them to do,
Right.
okay, then that way,
The only reason why you do it is because someone pressured you.
yeah, the teacher.
That's right. See, so you have a hierarchy. And when people pressure you, what do? You react. When you react, you take on their
Yes,
will.
I noticed that.
Then you turn around and you feel like you have a duty to impose it on someone else. And that's the dog-eat-dog insane world we live in. It's going to take some time for you guys to learn what I'm talking about, but at least you're getting a glimpse into it. You're going to have to start practicing not yielding to the pressure of the pressure mongers yourself. For instance, when a woman is pressured by a husband for sex or for emotional support, loving, and a woman doesn't want to do that but nevertheless, he pressures her by his need. Now she's going to resent it, and then what does she do? She starts to accommodate. You always do things out of pressure, but then you do it, and then you're angry about it, but you're stuck in the whole role of he's going to do it again, because once you pressure it and respond and go along with it once, it becomes a conditioned reflex for response. And an ever greater weakness of the soul, it cannot resist. It becomes the only relationship because he'll only accept you if you respond to that pressure and go along with him and give him the support. He won't stay around if you don't. So now in order to have a relationship with a man, you have to respond to pressure. So now if you don't respond to pressure, he'll go out and find another woman who'll respond to his pressure. Well, then you're going to have to take a chance that you might lose your job. Start your own damn school. Right?
Well, that's true.
You've got to stand up.
Because sometimes when I'm doing things in the classroom, and sometimes they'll get back to the teacher, and then all of a sudden, you know, I did something wrong. I go, oh, what did I do wrong? It's just that I didn't follow what they had instructed.
This is what you do, is that you take the instructions from your superior, so-called superior, your inferior superior. All our superiors are inferiors. But they put us beneath them by the way they pull rank, and you react to that, and you're forever a child. You understand? So, the way you deal with it is to pretend to respond.
Oh.
But don't. They'll know that you haven't responded. Or don't respond, and if you don't respond, you can carry out the assignment not in the way of the order of things, the hierarchy of hell that they belong to. When you get into your classroom, you could say, well, this assignment is geography, whatever it is, you teach it in your own way. If they didn't like it, let them lump it. So you've been thrown out of better places than that.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably throw me right out.
Right.
But it's probably...
But you teach the kids, when you want your kids, you teach the kids about responding to authority. You must always teach the kids, whenever you have the opportunity, to deal with authority correctly. They will love you for it.
Well, I try to teach them morals, but sometimes it just goes
No, teach them morals, because morals is a straitjacket without dealing with authority. See, because when you deal with authority, which is wicked, all authorities are wicked, 99 and 9/10%. That's how they get to be authorities. Because how do you think the dope pushers, why they have so much money? And the whores, and the pimps, and the entertainers, and the rock and roll stars, and the politicians, scumbags that most of them are, right? I'm not short on words, you understand. I want them to react to what I'm saying, you follow? I can see them all reacting already. See, but I'm playing the same game. You react to me, you feel inferior. I become your superior. The only way you can play the game is to try to get me upset. And then you become superior again, and I become inferior to your system. I want to take my world back. So I want you to teach you to deal with authorities in a correct way, not moralize, because if you can teach children to respond to authority, bad authority, you see, the bad won't get in them, because when the bad gets in them, you can't moralize it. And that comes this other authority, this hypocrite tries to moralize you, like the Salvation Army or something tries to moralize you, and it only digs them deeper in. You go to jail, and you'd have a psychologist either encouraging men to have sex with each other, you know, as a therapy, and telling them it's normal to be homosexual and it's okay to be drunk, and so you got a disease. They can't do anything about it, so they all become mothers. You know what I mean? They all become mothers. Or they come around and they try to moralize you and convert you to Christ, and so you can't do it. You can't be normal because you're caught up with hypocrites, or you're driven to the extreme of degradation, going even further into the hole. You teach your children to deal with wicked authority. One of the beautiful examples of this, my daughter came home one night. She was traumatized by school. So I said, now Diane, you've got to stand up for yourself. These people are not your authorities. And if there's too much of it, I'll keep you home, see? But remember, you have Child's Bill of Rights. You stand up. If they're not treating you right, stand up. And if they treat you wrong, you come and see me. I'll take care of it. I want you to take care of it as much as you can. Say, okay, Dad, I can take care of it. Well, if you can't take care of it, you come to me, because that's what I'm here for. It's too much heat. I'll take care of it. So she goes to school, and one day the teacher says, Diane, I'm getting impatient with you. I'm losing my patience with you. And Diane stood up. She says, but teacher, if you had patience, you wouldn't be losing it. Because the more you use it, the more you've got it. And that teacher turns green and red. And she did it right. She stood up to that authority, and she became the superior one. See, the authorities that stand over us are those who, well, it's one-upsmanship. They've preceded it. The madness has preceded us into the world, and we've got to take our world back. Okay? So that's very important to teach your children every time you can to deal with a crazy authority by not resenting them, because the authority wants you to, they win by intimidation, and you lose. Yes?
Yes. I've been divorced about 10 years now, and I have 2 small children. But I've noticed that, is it their hate for me, or is it my ex-wife's hate that's
probably
in them?
It's probably dealing with your ex-wife's hate for you that's still in them.
So I told her when I did spend very little time with my children, because I've been in prison and stuff like this. And
well, then it's their hate for you.
Hate for me. And
see, they could have 2 hates. They could have their your ex-wife's hate in them for you. That's one. How many women here have their mother's hate for men in them, and not their own hate? How many women do understand that? Can I see? Ah, you do. But then you can have your own hate added to that, can't you? You see, there's really 2 levels of it. You can have the ancient Eve transmitted from one generation to another from the very beginning. Transmitted, and that's bad enough. But then you can add your own hate to it later on. There are 2 levels of it. But I have to discuss that some other time. You've been in prison, so therefore you haven't been around, and you've been a very bad...
This, if I see on the weekends, it's very little time. It's
very little time.
What I teach them or show them, it's taken away because of the lifestyle, what they see.
There's any love for you? There's any love for you in those children?
Well, I have very little contact with them right now.
So the question's a mute question if you have very little contact. But when you do have contact, it's the quality of the contact. For instance, you are sitting in this room for a few hours. There's a quality of contact. You're going to go home and you're not going to be the same. So the contact with you and your children must be likewise. See, you're going to say, "No, look, kids, your dad has been a bad dad." But, you know, if I had someone to teach me, and you go and tell them, and this is what I've learned. You know, I resented my mother, and I rebelled against my father, and I hated everybody, and I did everything. I went crazy. But I didn't know, because I came into the world and everybody was crazy around me, and everybody's telling me what to do, and everybody was bitching at me, right?
Right.
So, and I had this crazy mother and this weak, drunken father, right? Something like that. And so there was nobody there. So deep down inside of me, kids, I'm not a bad guy. And I've suffered. And I'm sorry that I haven't been there for you. But I've been too mixed up. But I'm not anymore. You're going to see a magic. Okay? Anybody else? Yes, that lady there. Could you stand up?
Keep it in the children's department. I
Children's
wonder,
Go ahead.
can a person be born with resentment and anger in them?
I think so. I think I think the resentment of a woman can be so deep that I think a child can come out of his mother's womb hating.
I know I did.
I think I don't remember where I read it, whether it was in the Bible or lost books of the Bible, but I think Cain hated his in his mother's womb. He hated his sister, or hated something in his mother. It was said that. I wish I shouldn't have started something I couldn't finish, but but it's mentioned in one of the scriptures in the lost books of the Bible that Cain hated in his mother's womb. And we don't hear about Eve, his mother, but she must have had hate. She must have had it there. She must have had it towards Adam for failing her. Because life was pretty bleak, though, so all they had was a cave to live in, and
Well,
just fig leaves. You know, it wasn't much. There was. You think you don't have much. I can imagine her hating a man. Go ahead.
Isn't the spiritual source the strongest source we have? So
I don't
wouldn't
understand
that
the
be?
question.
Pardon?
I don't understand the question.
We're spirit. God created us.
No, your mother recreated you.
Yeah, but I mean, before we were born,
Yes.
He was our
When you
heaven.
came into the world,
uh-huh.
for most of us, we come into the world little babies, naive, not
Yes.
innocent. We come into the world subject to the ruling authority, mother. No father. Fathers don't exist. They produce the children through the weakness, not through love.
I
And
understand.
that's transmitted to the children. That's why it's important to have moral relationships. Marriage based upon love and not lust. An understanding of what love is, of a man for a woman, and a woman respectful of a man's love. And then they produce children with a totally different... Remember I said to you the other day that a doctor told me, it's just there's so many examples I could pick, but I'm not very good at inventing them, you see. He said, I like yogurts, I think they're important to you, but I'd eat too much of them so I get fat. And because I had a stomach condition. And then kefir, and he says, well, take a third of a cup of kefir and drink it first thing in the morning, a third of a cup, not a whole cup any time. It's a matter of when and where you do things, you know what I mean? See, so I feel that it's a matter of timing and understanding and love and principles. They seem to mingle. The spirit of that mingles into the flesh, descends into the flesh, and produces different types of children. Look at the kind of kids we're producing today. Look at them. Wall-to-wall degenerates. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but it's time to face up to the truth that our young kids are gone. And who's going to bring them back? The Pied Piper's got them. The ghetto is full of lost children. And there's no psychiatry, there's not any courses, there's not an army of elephants that could bring them back. They're gone. It's a whole nation, millions. There's only a few bright ones that escape. This is what society has done with its immorality in its free sex. It's the loss of the delicate principles of the yogurt principle. See? See? The understanding mingles, and when it's applied, and when it's in principle between men and women, there's awe and respect and love, and then the spirit mingles into the children. And it produces a much higher class of human being. Yes?
I like to think that there's a bright nature in all children, though, because in my dealings with them...
Well, I'm saying they're ruined now. I hope that we can... There's a lot of them we can save. I don't know who we can save. It surprises me sometimes. Some of the most disgusting surprise you, and some of the most innocent-looking dismay you. You can't tell by the look. But I'm sorry, how can there are very few people in the world that know what I know and have the power to reach them that I do, that I know I have. You know your life, you've been looking for what I have all your life. So now how I'm going to reach them? You have to help me. See, I'm going to get on a UHF channel. That's about as... I can't even afford that. I'm losing my shirt. See? We support all institutions. We support the drugs and alcohol and cigarettes and all that stuff that we don't really need. We're spending money on all kinds of junk. We're spending money on this. We might be able to help our nation. Maybe NBC should give me some free time. That'll be a bleak day in Christmas. How did I get off on that? Okay. Anybody else?
I have my problem is the school system totally destroyed me. The moment that my first day of kindergarten, I feel, was the last day of my education.
It's exactly right. I was very well said.
Now I have 3 children, and 2 of them are school age, and I'm homeschooling them. But I started to pressure my oldest one the same way school did to me, so I have completely backed off. But
it's too late. You did it.
yeah, he's
you know what happened?
I don't know. How do you? I've heard you say that your son taught himself how to read.
I backed off.
Actually, did you not teach him anything? How do you teach children?
No, he teaches me all the time. It's a very strange thing, but with Mark especially, he was the last one, and I had the most wisdom with him. But he still suffered. I had to take him out of school because the kids were worse than the teachers. Mm-hmm. I can remember him saying, you know, he didn't want to shower with all the kids. It was modest. So they make fun of him. They call you queer. You don't want to shower. Don't want to take his clothes off. He said, you're calling me queer. You take your clothes off and you shower with each other. What do you call that? Kid was sharp, but the trauma of being amongst the other kids was because the other kids were so degenerate. He rose head and shoulders above them. They destroyed him because he was different. He was the ugly duckling when he was the beautiful swan. So.
How do I go about teaching my children at home? I mean,
well, I did with mine.
I don't have the, like I said, I don't know. I can't learn anything.
Well, but I didn't know much either. I mean, I'm a diamond cutter. That's my trade. I couldn't teach that to my kids, and I couldn't lift a hammer if I tried, you know. So I didn't have much to teach them. But I found that to leave them alone, I had told Timber Ranch. I guess my secret motive was to told Timber Ranch for my kids. But it turned out to be good for lots of kids, you know what I mean? But it was an experiment, and I just sent them to Toll Timber Ranch in Oregon and just left them alone. And before you know it, with no one pressuring it, no teachers, just somebody that, you know, who knew a little bit more than they did, they were building gazebos and they're building barbecue pits, beautiful, and welding and making the ironwork. And it's the most incredible thing if you just give them the tools.
So when you
just leave them alone and just let them tinker.
When you said that your son at the age of 9 or 10, I don't remember what age, said
11.
That he taught himself how to read.
Yeah, 9 he taught himself how to read.
You didn't do anything.
Mad magazines.
You didn't hand him books. You didn't do anything.
In about 3 weeks.
Did you help him? I mean.
I don't remember. I think so. But once he started to want to reach for it himself, huh? Once he started to want to reach for himself, and he began to be fun. He began to find a spirit of a Holy Spirit that was sort of tutoring him and making, and it started to snowball. And then incessantly, morning, noon, and night, he would keep telling me what he'd learned that day, and on the stock market, and morning, noon, and night, non-stop. I'd have listened to. I never learned a thing, but I wished I had, because he has such knowledge now. He's into venture capital. He's into big business with billions of dollars. And he understands all this, and I'm still stupid. I didn't have that opportunity, you see. I didn't have that beginning.
So my feelings are just to step back, leave my kids alone.
But keep them from the things that would disturb that. See, if you step back and don't do anything, they will gravitate to the TV and they start eating crackers.
Yes.
You got to keep them from the thing that would involve them and give them an unhealthy education. So that, because then the vacuum starts to be filled in a natural way. The trouble is once you start to violate a person and pressure them to learn, they fall away from their ability to function from themselves. So you've got to allow a drying out period, a time to recover. That's what we did at Tall Timber Ranch in Oregon, by the way. For those who want a brochure on 373 acres, you can send your young people up there if you want to. We got to give them a drying out period where you get good and bored, but there's nothing else to do except to do the sensible things. And pretty soon they start picking up a hammer and getting interested in things, and then before you know it, they're into it. Building beautiful furniture, and you don't even know where the knowledge is coming from. It's the most incredible thing you've ever seen. 3 months of that kind of training is equivalent to 5 years of school. They learn as much in 3 months as they would in 5 years. And then they come out better human beings. Thank you very much. We've got one more session tomorrow night. We're talking about, how to be a good parent, and well, tell a friend. He keeps holding these signs up and just interrupting my trend of thought. I'm glad he did. I go on forever. Thanks for listening, and join us tomorrow night.
Human understanding teaches an observation exercise, often called meditation, which permits you to become objective toward your problems and allows your heartaches, bad habits, fears, and anxieties to be completely eliminated from your life without effort on your part. Until you have begun to practice this exercise, much of what you see and hear on the following program may be shocking and upsetting to you. But if you will listen calmly and with an open mind, you may discover the key to the peace of mind and joy for which you've been searching all of your life. And now, from the Foundation of Human Understanding, here is Roy Masters.
Welcome once again to the program, How to Control Your Negative Emotions. And that's exactly what we're doing, because negative emotions project. And most of us are walking around like thunder and lightning is around us, and we're projecting all that to our children. And I have to say, most of us are horrible parents, products of even more horrible parents, who are product of horrible parents all the way back to the first parents who didn't do the right thing and failed. We've all failed our children, and we don't know how to relate to them in any other way except to fail them. We try our best, I know, but that usually makes everything worse. So there is some mysterious ingredient we're looking for, and we are discussing it, and in our discussions here this evening, perhaps we'll bring it more close to the surface where you will all catch a glimpse of it. What does it take to be a better parent? And what is it? But first of all, it takes you to get your parent out of you. See? You got the wrong identity, you've got the parent you hated in you. But let's continue now with some questions, because if I get on a roll, I can't stop. I got diarrhea of the mouth, I can't help it. It's just one of those things that comes with being a genius. All right, let's take the next call. Hello, you're on the air now. That reminds me, I have a radio program on 9 o'clock in the morning, KIEV. And, pardon? 870 on the dial, Los Angeles. Okay, now, let's, you first.
My question is about my relationship with my 4-year-old son.
Have you noticed something about yourself?
Nervousness.
No, you're too humble.
Yeah.
See, you're so...
That's another one of my problems.
But you're never going to get anywhere.
Um,
That projects.
Can I talk to you about
Everybody's
that
going to take... Yeah, later on, maybe.
Okay.
But you see, I'm saying that that's a very big part of your problem is how you project. See? Because if I was a mugger, I'd mug you right away.
I've never...
I'd see... No, I know, but I'd see you walking down the street, I'd see you as a good mark.
Okay.
There's something about you that says weak, I could take advantage of you.
Yes.
Is that right?
You're right.
So, and what are we going to do about that?
Oh, dear.
Well, how did you get that way?
Well, I have two...
To hell with your question.
Okay, I have two... You're right. This is more important. You're right. I have two older brothers. They're paranoid schizophrenic. So my childhood was
now
very...
you know what kind of mother you had.
Yeah, my father was very weak. And I just had a terrible childhood. I was always afraid of my brother killing somebody. So I
And you're not afraid of your mother?
No, not my mother.
Your mother was nice?
My mother was nice.
How do you think your brothers became paranoid schizophrenics? It wasn't your father. Your father's a nothing.
My father was a nothing.
Nothings don't make paranoid schizophrenics.
Oh, really?
They don't have any effect on anything. Don't you see? They have no effect on anything. They're nothing. Your mother saw to it that he was a nothing. It's your mother that the paranoid schizophrenic came through your mother.
Oh.
Doesn't come through fathers.
See, it's hard for me to remember because my brothers are 10 years older than me. So,
yeah. It's hard to remember your mother?
Well, my mother died when I was 21, but...
You don't remember what kind of woman she was?
Yes, I do. I remember.
What kind of woman was she? Because she did you in.
She loved me very much.
We
were like
you were very
best
close.
friends. Best friends.
Yes, she was, but because you wimped out to her,
yes.
And the other boys she destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
She destroyed their masculinity, and she made them wimp out, and she put her nature in you, in them, and you were scared to death. She scared you early in life, and you wimped out, and she rewarded you for weakness, and you're weak. She loved you for weakness. She loved you for giving in to her.
Yeah.
And she loved you as long as you went along with her. You're afraid to speak. You're afraid of not to go along with her. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. You're afraid of losing her approval, right? Always needed her approval.
Yes. Oh, yes. I always.
You're in trouble, friend.
Yeah.
That's right. So, see what's wrong with you?
Yes.
You have children now?
I have one boy.
God help him.
That's why I'm here.
All right, now we can proceed with the question.
Okay. It's okay. I know impatience is obvious that it's wrong. When I'm impatient with my son,
You mean to say you have a side of you that's fierce?
Yes.
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 You don't look fierce to me. How come you show the fierce side to him? Because you look like a lion, like a big devil with horns when you get impatient with him. You show the strength you don't really have. You're doing to your child, is this what your mother did to your brothers?
No.
Don't you see that?
Yeah.
That kid's going to be best friends with you, or he's going to be dead, or he's going to be confused, confounded out of all reason. You're a destroyer, see? There's a destroyer in you, and there's a big, strong will in you. And you're not as nice as you look, are you?
No.
Is that true?
Yes.
What are you going to do about it? How about your husband? I'm sorry, see, I can break you down real easy, can't I? And break it down to the nitty-gritty, make you see that the question you're about to ask wouldn't have had any significance unless I had questioned you.
I'm glad you did.
Good.
Because this is this is the problem.
Now, is there anything other question left that you want to talk to me about?
Well...
Do you know what to do now?
Yeah, the other problem seems insignificant now.
One, you're not a nice person.
Huh?
One, you're not a nice person.
Right.
That your closeness with your mother only made you a replica of her phoniness. But inside that nice facade is a rotten swine, a man destroyer. And you won't let your child be a man. That's why you're impatient with him. You're projecting your female will on him. You won't let him, because if he reacts to your impatience, he cannot be a man. No way in the world. You want to rob him from his manhood like your mother did to your brothers?
No.
When you were close to him, you loved your mother. It was a false love, but you became your mother. You are your mother, and you have the... You're the carrier. You may not have AIDS, but you're a carrier. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
You're carrying the disease.
Yes.
That child is in great danger. Do you know it?
Yes, because of my background, I know it.
Yeah, but you had such a loving mother. See, you've got to get rid of the notion that you had a loving mother and you and your mother were close. You were unhealthily close.
Yes.
So much so that you didn't have your own identity. You got hers. And with that identity, you're going to destroy your son. If he doesn't go along with him, you get impatient with him. And you put your little hell in him. Mm-hmm. And then he's going to grow up to be a paranoid schizophrenic or something that's bizarre. And everybody will see little sweet little winemaker you, and they can't understand that you're such a nice person and this kid is a weirdo.
What should I do?
You'll die alone in this world. No one loving you. Scratching your wooden head and wonder what happened.
I have a hatred for men, too.
Yes, you do. You have a hatred towards your own son, if you'll please examine the fact.
Well, the worst is for my father, because he still gives in to my brothers.
But your son is a man, and you hate that man. You're a man destroyer, because there's something in you that lives, that feels superior to men, don't you? Even in that little wimpy little weakness of yours, there's something in you that feels superior to men, and maintains the superiority by this woman game that you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see, in all of the vanquished, there is a hatred for those who have stepped on them. And the vanquished always feel superior to those who have stepped on them, deep down inside. And if they should ever be emancipated in some way, as we have done to black people hate white people. See, my son says, and this is an interesting thing because we're talking about hatred and prejudice. My son said that the black preachers are preaching hatred, white hatred, to the black community. He said, I hear it all the time, you know, putting this seeds of hate in those people. He said, in my generation, I have never done anything bad to any black person. See? He said, but you see, the point is that as soon as a person starts to be emancipated and stops being the inferior, the one with the foot on the neck, for whatever reason, as soon as that person is released from that prison and is emancipated, the inferiority, that humble, sweet, inferior, yes-sir thing begins to emerge as the replica of what made it, but even worse. And even the homosexuals, the same way. The homosexuals have been pressed down, put in their closets, and for years and years, what they felt was oppressed. Of course, they need to be in the closets. See, these people need to be in the closet. It's a bad thing we've let them out. See, but the point is, but each person who is inferior like you, put down and pressured, and with no way of expressing except to bow and scrape, and to lick the boots of the people who oppress you, which is you and your mother. You thought you loved your mother, but you are your mother, and now your mother is gone. Is she gone? Yes, and now you are the mother, and now you stand over. You stand over those who oppressed you. You're a woman. You've been oppressed all the years by men. You hate men. Now it comes out like a giant toadstool, you know, a big mushroom over, standing. This is what your child sees. And this resentment towards men, see, has made you this resentment towards men because men have always been mistreated you, mistreated your mother, all the rest of it. They failed you, and you have this tremendous burning hatred towards men. But in this resentment, women typically and traditionally lick the boots of the men that mistreat them and fail them, don't they? We were talking about that the other day. And more so, and the more they lick the boots of the men, the more they mistreat them and fail them. And so they are stuck inside this with all this resentment and stuck in the woman's role It's like men have all the fun and that sort of thing in this world, and because the women are always servicing the men and spoiling them rotten. And the men abuse them and fail them and go on, and God knows what. But deep down inside, every woman feels superior. Every woman feels superior to a man. But she doesn't show it, because she helps a man to feel superior. She licks the boots of you know what I mean? Until she can be emancipated one day. But when she's emancipated one day, God helped the men. See, it's the same with the homosexuals. God helped the community, because now they've come to the surface, and this judgment and this sense of superiority they've always felt towards the oppressor, and the love the boot licking, because that's the only way they could deal with them, to make the oppressor more of oppressor. And the more the oppressor, the more they service the oppressor, not knowing any other way, not being free to be any different. The more they lick the boots as slaves of the oppressor, the more the oppressor was the oppressor, and the more they judged the oppressor. And in their judgment, they felt superior. And in the superior, see, they felt superior because this was obviously wicked. And in their own mind, the loser gets the idea of being the judge. See, because you have, compared with the wickedness, you are serving and being good. But there's a terrible burning hatred and judgment that's in there, and if it ever has an opportunity to be freed from that, and that opportunity presents itself when you have a small male child. You understand that? And you will destroy it. Your hatred of all men and the subservient position you've always found yourself in, see, with men. That being as a woman, you know, is your unhealthy and unnatural role that you find yourself cast. Whenever you find yourself, that hatred will now begin to manifest itself and put its heel into the soul of your child. You can't help yourself. As long as you hate your father, as long as you hate all men, as long as you hate your husband, your child is a dead person. You've got to give up hating men. See? Because that only feeds that monster in you. That's weak before the strong, strong before the weak. The homosexuals are becoming militant. They're vowed to blood terrorism, to sodomize all your children. See, because they feel that they see the heterosexuals as inferior beings, and them as the superior beings. And now they've come out the closet. There's going to be violence and revolution from them to us, to convert us, to confound our laws and our rules and regulations, so you can hardly fight them back. But I'm just saying, this is what your problem is. You have a side of you that's rotten. And but if it didn't hate your father, and it didn't hate your husband, it would have no occasion to express itself. The genie would be on the other side in the bottle. You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes. I know what you're saying.
So see that this closeness between your mother and yourself is a sort of a conspiracy against men. Do you understand that? Do you know? This lady next to you is nodding her head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody has a question? Yeah. I went on a long tirade there, but we've got to face up to the fact that you just can't. That you have. Well, anyway, I'll go to another tirade. I won't. Yeah. You're welcome.
I'm kind of like coming back from. I was her son, basically. How do I get back?
You recognize this woman as like your mother, sweet on the side, sweet,
vicious, but in my case, thoroughly vicious.
But well, on the surface, sweet as sugar, right?
Oh, to other people, but as soon as the door closed.
You know, you got some preachers like that.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you come back at them, you find yourself fighting God. Mm-hmm. You know, they have a projector viciousness and a confusion, but then they hold up the Bible and their collar. And you don't know how to deal with it because you're dealing now with something apparently good. You don't know how to deal with it. It's very frustrating, isn't it? To deal with hypocrisy.
Yeah, the good guy, bad guy thing kept me going for a long time.
Keeps you spinning.
Yeah, right.
And you end up knuckling under to it and doing what your mother wants you to do. And then you feel tremendous rage.
And I lost my entire soul, life, direction, I was fine when I remember. I mean, I was wonderful.
You're being intimidated, my friend.
Yes.
And without a father. See, you know how my children survived my wife? I have to tell you, I had the classic relationship. And it's better now. And because I learned. And I'm teaching you from what I've learned. I taught my sons not to resent their mothers. To deal with her like she was a naughty little girl. Remember, I started out the program by saying that. To see, and that's what they've all learned. They've learned to deal with the nature of women. The very fact, you understand, the very fact that they're attracted to their wives is because there's a little bit of their mother in them that they have to learn to dominate. But not with violence, not to knock them down with animal force to compensate for the natural grace they don't have anymore. But to conquer their wives with love. So when they, see what I mean? When the wives, the only reason why they marry, there's no other, but is to resolve this unfinished business between them and their mother with their wives, see? The Adam and Eve syndrome, I call it, see? The woman is attracted to a man like their father a little bit, but something different is in my sons a little bit. That's why the woman has hope. So she can work it out. She has the work, because when she tempts this man, which is a little bit like, there's part of him like her father in there, but there's a part that isn't. See? And if it wasn't there, it would be the same old rat race again. But because it is there, he overcomes her with love. She tempts him, he doesn't fall. Or he falls and we talk about it. He calls me up, he said, Dad, see now son, you have to learn to deal. This is your growing up, the only reason why you're married. See, because there's a part of you that's attracted to the woman for support. The part of you the mother put in there to be mothered by your wife. That's the part that's attracted for the support. And that's what you're weak for. And that's what the woman hates you for. I know if we got off the subject, didn't we? But you see, you have to overcome your mother's, you have to learn, is your mother still alive?
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn to deal with her like she was a little girl.
Right.
And just remember, you know, the beautiful thing that my mother did for me, I don't think she understood. When my father died, she made me the head of the home. I was 15. And she would consult with me, and that brought my manhood out. In other words, and even Mary called her son Lord, had respect for him even though he was her son. A woman who's wise would be wise to not to treat her son like an inferior creature and herself as the superior one, and be the mother of this little kid. There was a potential man in there that could love her and correct her, and she should treat that child as if that was the case. She might find the love from her son that she never found from her husband. You understand? See that? So you as a son, give up the resentment to the witch and the woman. You might find the woman in the witch. Okay? How we have a question over here.
How does one stop hating one's father? I don't know any other way to be.
Look at me. What do you see in me? See a man?
Yes.
Do you see your father?
I see my father.
In me?
Yeah.
You hate me? You hate that in me?
Yeah.
Big mistake. You lost your chance. I'm not your father, but you're seeing me as a man. See, you hate all men, and you can't even get past it in me. I am not your father. I'm nothing like your father, but you insist in seeing me as that, so you can go on hating it. I'm saying you're not ready. Suffer.
You're saying I still want to hate.
Now, I'm going to ask the question of this lady in the front here. I asked you the same question. What do you see in me?
I see love.
You don't see the father you hated.
Not at all.
It softened you, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You feel better when you walk out. That's the difference between the two of you. You still
that I still want to hate.
You still want power. You still enjoy hating. You don't want to be, you're still willful and you don't want to be corrected yet. You're not ready. I don't say you in the future, but this is a marvelous opportunity. You're missing it. All the therapy in the world, all the psychology in the world, all the words is nothing. It's the spirit. That's what you see. The letter killeth. What you get from a book, useless. All it does, it says, Jesus says, you search the scripture, seeking, thinking you can find eternal life, and all it does is testify to me, and here I am, and you don't even see me now that I'm here. You missed the boat. The whole thing is in the contact. My contact with you, did it soften your soul? It didn't. You walk out of here as hard as you came in. You missed it. You weren't ready. She came in hard and she went out soft. And she'll never be the same. The words will all be forgotten after this evening. Something will remain because something came across the ether. You saw something. You saw it and respected it, and your hate for men disappeared. Through me. See? Simple. You missed it. You muffed it, kid.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't deliberate.
Well, it's good. So you got a rerun. You get to see it again. Well, is that the end of the program already? Oh, wow, that half an hour went quick again, didn't it? Tell a friend, and this program, and this I'm reading off an idiot card, program 4573, and all these programs that you've been listening to, watching this week, are available on video cassette, as well as audio cassette. So if you've been cheating and copying it anyway, send us a few bucks. Because a lot of you, you know, this is a very expensive program to produce, and I'm very happy that you copy this, and indeed you should, and put it away for posterity and, you know, for your children and your children's children, because, you know, I'm going to be pushing up the daisies one of these days or something or other, and therefore you have this record, and it could save your life of your children and your children's children, because where are you going to see this? Where are you going to hear this again? So make it possible for us to produce this program. I mean, we're losing about $2,500 a week at this point. You know, you can't go on. I'm taking it out of other places where we're not losing, but I'm always trying to pay Peter to pay Paul. And I wish Peter and Paul would come down and... Anyway, suggest that you write to the foundation. I've been saying many things, but the bottom line is that you have to find that spirit of understanding and love, and you've got to give up your resentments and your hostilities that you've accumulated all these years. And every night this week on this program, I have shown you how that hate blocks love, and how when you hate, up comes the wrong kind of love. So you have love-hate relationships that have nothing to do with love at all. It's, you know, the devil, if there's such a thing as the devil, and I think there is. As a matter of fact, I know there is. If the devil existed, he would love too. He'd love you just the way you were. He'd be the kind of guy that says love is never to have to say that you're sorry. Right? He'd always love you the way you are. He'd always soothe you and protect you, and never let you have to admit that you're wrong. Always make you feel good about yourself with dope and drugs and religion and everything else. Never face yourself. You'll always be his, and your condition will always be worse. But love is correction. See, but how can you be correct? It's not possible to be correct if you fall from grace. If you have hate, if you have hated one time, just one time in your life, you've lost the power to correct. You've become an incorrect person with the incorrect kind of loving and being loved. Understand? Next week, we're going to be continuing on this children thing. We never got into that, and happiness. Thank you very much for supporting the program. And stay tuned. They'll be flashing on the screen how you can get our materials, how you can find this understanding and self-control and love. Join us in the next program.